Guys, what is up today? This video is just a discussion. It's a discussion that I feel like needs to happen in this internet space. Discussions like this might happen on other channels and other places on the internet, but me and my friend Berg talk about this stuff all the time when we play games, specifically shooters. And in this video today, we're talking about Warzone and the future of FPS games. And there's a lot of things that Warzone did well, but there's also a lot of things that Warzone did very poorly. So we're just gonna go ahead and talk about it. All right, today we're doing something a little bit different. We're gonna do a discussion on Warzone specifically and the future of FPS games. And we're doing it with my friend, let's just call him Berg.
I'm Berg.
The funniest part about that is that you looked at the camera, but I don't have you on my screen. We gotta have the Berg. What happened? What is wrong with... Hold on, I know what's wrong with this. That's what's wrong with this. How do you want to start this?
I think we really need to talk about, one, maybe our history of FPS background, just to kind of get people to understand that as two borderline senior citizens,
in the gaming world,
that we there's a deep love of FPS games, but there's also some fatigue that's come across with it, and why games haven't really we get to the why part later, but just go with our background. So I don't know if you want to start. I mean, you got a kid, so
I got dibs there. Let's just go to the in-game thing so we can see. My first FPS game was probably Doom 2, and that's like taking it back to like whenever I was in elementary school. But it wasn't like a multiplayer game, at least not at the time. I mean, you could do like LAN and stuff like that, and play people like that you were hooked up to physically. But that's a whole different like world at this point. But going from there, I played a couple other games here and there, like Quake and Quake Arena and stuff like that. But then I really got into FPS gaming a little bit more hardcore whenever I started playing, I guess Halo 2 or 3. And then, well, I played Halo 1, but it kind of was late to the party. So I played more Halo 2, Halo 3. And then like, I think what really kicked it off for me was Call of Duty. And my first COD that I was ever really introduced to was World at War. And I kind of went back after I discovered COD. I was like, wow, this game series is awesome. But then I went back, played Call of Duty 4, and like, I was like all about it. And I think that was my favorite COD. And I think that still is my favorite COD to this day because of that. Because I think nostalgia also plays a pretty big part of it. I mean, then you know, it goes from, you know, COD 4, Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3. I played Black Ops, trash series, if you ask me. Maybe that's more of a hot take for the Call of Duty or the Black Ops 2 fanboys.
19-year-olds are furious at you.
YouTubers everywhere just got really upset.
Kids who don't even remember life before cell phones are like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Black Ops 3 was the greatest Call of Duty ever.
But no, I guess that's in a nutshell sums up a lot of my FPS experience. What about you?
So being a true 90s baby, as in born in 1990, my parents, being a preacher's kid, my parents didn't really enjoy violent video games in the household, which is kind of shocking. So video game started as a sports thing only for me. And I remember the first real exposure I had to like a violent shooting game was Grand Theft Auto 3. And when my parents figured out what the heck was happening there, I was not allowed to play that anymore. But the very first FPS game I played was James Bond GoldenEye.
I forgot about that game.
On N64.
Yes, and, so good.
I didn't have an N64. I played it at a friend's house. And I remember one guy had all the cheat codes for the game and to get like the golden gun or whatever it was.
Yes.
And I always thought it was the most fun ever.
Such a good game.
I didn't have an N64, so it wasn't never like a passion. That's the first person shooter I remember playing. But Halo 1 was is always going to be king to me. That's my buddy had an Xbox, and we would go and play campaign a bunch. And then once I got to like junior high age, because Halo came out like either my 5th grade year or 6th grade year or something like that. and we got to junior high, we would do system link parties at people's houses,
Yeah.
and we would literally have 16 people at a house.
Those
system
LAN
link
parties, baby.
LAN parties, 16 people, 4 Xboxes, 4 controllers per Xbox, 4 TVs, on like 28-inch TVs. Also, like the height
It's
of
like
luxury
monitors
back then.
now. Yeah.
Oh, it's literally like monitors, and we thought they were
Yeah.
like good-sized TVs. Like luxury today is just absolutely
Like the big bulky ones, or they're like they're
yeah.
started
no,
flat screen.
Yeah, like Armando plus 250 pounds.
Yeah. The CRTs.
But then Halo 2 was the first game I played online, and I would have played Halo 2 probably all the time, but I kept on failing classes, so they didn't let me play all the time online, and actually didn't have a console for like a year or two because ours broke and mom and dad weren't going to buy me a new one until they leveraged me passing summer school. If I passed summer school, I can get an Xbox 360. I think COD 4 was my introduction. My real introduction. I played Call of Duty, like played the original stuff, because Medal of Honor. We got to shout out Medal of Honor.
Oh, dude, I played Medal of Honor. Frontline was the only one I played.
Is that Frontline the one that started off on D-Day?
Yeah.
Okay, Frontline.
Because like
I played that all the time.
Like
I played that D-Day mission. Like I don't think I finished the game. I just only replayed the D-Day mission.
I would say that to this day, maybe I was just really bad at games when I was a kid, but that's the hardest game I've ever played. But that was like the hardest game I've ever played.
When Medal of Honor was out and Call of Duty 1, 2, and 3 were out,
yeah,
Medal of Honor was the winner. Like that was the game you played. Call of Duty was kind of like the secondary, like, oh, this is kind of cool. This is pretty good.
Yeah. Because like the graphics at the time were fantastic.
Yeah. But COD 4. So I remember I was at my buddy's house and he got it and he had the 360 and we were playing it and we were like switching off between games and he went to bed like at 1 a.m. or something like that.
Yeah.
And I stayed up until 6:30, kept on playing. He was so mad at me because I got his level up to like 21. He's like, what the heck, dude? I was like, I'm so sorry. And that's what was wild is I played Halo and I played Halo 2 and I started getting decent at Halo 2. And by decent, I mean surprisingly mediocre.
Yeah. Pretty average.
Just very average. Like I could win, like could carry people some games.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't mistake me for like someone who had a gift. But back to COD.
Yeah.
So COD 4 was a completely different style than Halo. Halo, you had a shield, you could regenerate, you had to go pick up power weapons. Like there was a strategic approach to Halo that COD just didn't have. And so when I first started playing COD 4, like I remember having my first game of like 5 kills, and I felt like I was a king. I was just like, holy crap, I'm getting so good at this game. It took me probably like 10 days of playing before my KD got above level 1.
Yeah.
Just because of the style of COD was just so much different than Halo. Mm-hmm. And that was something that COD 4 is my king. Modern Warfare 2 was the game that I started to play Call of Duty at least. Black Ops, I really enjoyed Black Ops for about a year until the RC car blew me up probably for the 700,000th time. And I was like, I hate all these kill streaks. And then Black Ops is when I switched to Battlefield. The gunfighting is similar enough that there wasn't as much of a learning curve.
Right. That's kind of like...
But I didn't play Call of Duty from Black Ops until like actually buy and play a multiplayer Call of Duty until Modern Warfare 2019. That was like an 8-year gap of not playing Call of Duty.
That's a long time. So I played for a while. I think the only COD that I stopped playing. So I stopped playing COD after I think Black Ops came out, Modern Warfare 3 came out, and then there was Black Ops 2. And then like some of the other garbage ones like Infinite and Ghosts and like
Ghost.
And then Black Ops 3. So, and I played bits and pieces of Black Ops 3, bits and pieces of Black Ops 2. I just hated the game at that point. Without going off too much on a rabbit trail and a bunch of CODs, like COD became something that I wasn't really interested in anymore.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. I guess we can probably get to our first point here.
Yeah, talking about Warzone.
So what made Warzone good is Warzone brought me back into COD. Actually, so I'll say I know Modern Warfare 19 gets a lot of crap, and I understand, like especially kids or even like 25-year-olds, because I'm 31 now. So if you're 5-6 years below me, younger than me, COD 4 probably wasn't your first COD. Modern Warfare 2 is probably your first COD.
Yeah.
Or even Black Ops or Black Ops 2 is your first COD. So like for that group of kids, Call of Duty was very arcadey. It was very much about like cheesing the system, so no scoping, insane movement, like all this other stuff. And Modern Warfare 2019 was more grounded.
Oh, okay.
And so I liked it. I know at first you didn't like it. You came back to it and actually started enjoying it, I believe.
Yeah.
But I like Modern Warfare 2019. The problem is I had no friends to really play with. But it wasn't addictive.
No.
Like Call of Duty 4 had a addictive substance about it that for 2 years of my life I couldn't put it down. When World at War came out, everyone I knew played World at War for probably 2 months, and we all went back to COD 4.
So many people did.
And that's what's like, you read kind of social media stuff, and World at War is, especially with people in that age range I just talked about, is like one of their, S tier games because that was their introduction to Call of Duty.
Mm-hmm.
World at War was kind of a huge disappointment for a lot of us at the time.
Yeah, which was funny because that was my first COD.
Yeah, but it was super like the graphic style, and that's Treyarch.
That's Treyarch. Treyarch is a bunch of hot mess, garbage.
There was cool things like limbs blowing off. But looking back, World at War really wasn't that bad. Just Call of Duty 4 was just so good that it stayed good.
Yeah.
But I think Warzone brought that addictive feeling back to a game to a multiplayer game I hadn't felt probably since I was in high school.
Yeah.
Which is a long time ago. And I think what made Warzone so good is they, especially at the beginning, they knew who they were and they played that well. And so they had the Call of Duty action pack feeling to it in a larger, grander scale that was higher stakes.
Yeah.
But I think what made it addictive was, one, it wasn't about survival. At one point, especially like once a month came around, the first month, everyone realized this game's not at its best if you're trying to survive like game. The game's at its best when you're chasing kills.
And you're pushing kills,
and you're rushing at people, and you're getting in a car, and you're chasing bounties.
That's where the game style.
That's where the game started to succeed. And it was a lot of fun before that. But once you kind of started figuring out that strategy, and you started getting 8, 9, 10 kill games, you're just like, oh, can I get to 20? And you're seeing like guys like Nick Merckx getting up to like 30 kills at the beginning. You're like, how are they getting 30? I can only get 7. And I felt good about myself. But it took a familiar formula and it inserted into Battle Royale. And I think that worked out really well to its advantage.
Yeah.
I know me and you disagree on this, but I think loadouts, at first, I didn't like loadouts because it seemed like a kind of a cheesy way to get around strategy. I started to really embrace it because loadouts allowed you to pick your style every game. You weren't relying on RNG. You were, if you're like, hey, I'm just going to go snipe and run a baseball bat. It's like, yeah, you can do that.
Baseball bat?
Yeah, well, that's Cold War. We'll talk about Cold War.
Oh, okay.
You can change your style. So it's like, I want to snipe and I want to run an SMG, or I want an AR at SMG. I want an LMG shotgun, like whatever you want to do. You had the control of what you want to do as long as you can get the money. Yeah.
Do you want to go over your next point before I talk about my perspective of it?
And I think this was one thing at the beginning that worked well was the low skill gap. Like you did not have to be really good at the game to start getting good at the game.
Are you saying the game started with a low skill gap or low skill cap?
Yeah, because like in the sense of it was easier to get pretty good. And so you did it like Fortnite, you had to grind to get pretty good.
Yeah.
Like it was, and
it felt good to grind at the same time, but it's a different skill like set. And then
it didn't feel great for everyone.
Right.
The only reason I love Fortnite is because I love to throw dynamite at people and accidentally get 4 kills. And that was like the peak of my existence. But Call of Duty, because it's so accessible, it allowed people to come in. And so a player like me, who wasn't good at Fortnite, who wasn't good at Apex, I remember played Apex once and dropped it forever. I felt like I was average at Blackout. Warzone allowed me, I thought I got to a place where I was considered good. Nowhere near like anything that would be considered I'm going to be your teammate for a $1,000 tournament good,
Yeah.
but good enough that I can hold my own. But I think that's what, especially at the beginning phases of the game, that's what made it so much fun.
Right.
Is you saw improvement if you played the game, and you saw improvement quickly.
Yeah. I think.
And so that benefit later on is going to turn out to be its negative.
Yeah.
But at the beginning, it was a benefit.
Right. I think that so for me, right, there's a couple things. I think the biggest thing of like the success of Warzone and why it was so popular for so long is the timing of its release, right? Literally, our spring break from school coincided and overlapped with like the release of Warzone, and so it came out like a Wednesday. And it was a Wednesday. I remember very specifically. It was halfway through the week, Wednesday, because you were still in Reno, but it was during spring break, right before COVID like shut down the whole country. So then you have this pandemic that hit. Nobody can go anywhere. We all think we're going back to work and normal in like 2 weeks, and then like nobody goes anywhere for like 9 months. And so like you have this perfect storm of like everyone's wanting a new game. Fortnite's getting pretty old at this point. It was season 2 had come out, chapter whatever, or chapter 2, sorry, it's chapter 2, season whatever. And like at this point in Fortnite's world, like the sweatiness is like unparalleled, because like everyone and their mother wants to be like the next big name and the next big thing. And like the World Cup had already happened, like Fortnite World Cup. And so you have all these like wannabe boogas running around, sweating their balls off to like, and I get it, because you want to be good and you want to practice and all that. But I feel like there's so many things that led to the downfall of that game that like made Warzone so appealing, because it did have a low skill cap. And you didn't have to grind for like hours. You had to put in like a 500-hour time crunch. I feel like, that's the biggest, for me, in my opinion, I feel like that's the biggest reason why Warzone was so successful. I think Warzone also kind of got me back into COD a little bit, but that was the only thing about COD that I was really interested in. Nothing about COD was really that interesting. Multiplayer was okay. I could handle it for a little bit here and there. And it ended up being like the Modern Warfare 2019 version of the multiplayer ended up being pretty okay after I came back to it, after I took like a long break. But I couldn't grind it like I used to. It kind of lost a lot of its appeal, but I think that's only because of the battle royale genre. And I still think that the Warzone that was released, even now, I still think it's the best BR. Honestly, you can make the argument that Apex is also a pretty good BR. Fortnite also is still a decent BR, but I think Warzone did such a good job with how they like kind of made it to where everybody else had to like kind of step up, because it did kind of come and take everybody by storm because of the low skill cap, and it didn't take, like I said, hours and hours of grinding to be good at, because COD has like a naturally lower skill cap because it is a casual game, which also brings me into a different kind of point later that I'll kind of come back to, is that we're taking these very casual games and we're making them sweaty, and there's a lot of emphasis on trying really hard in these very casual games, whenever that's not like, there's become not really a place for like the casual gamer for the most part, especially if you like want to also play well. I don't know, it's weird. But I also think it had solid gunplay, kind of for the same reasons that you talked about. And
I think of the battle royales at the time, I think an argument could be made. I think Blackout,
it could have been better.
It could have been better, but Blackout did, and a lot of Blackout's pros are Warzone's cons, and we can talk about that later. But I think, like you said, gunplay, because Fortnite wasn't really a gunplay game. It was a
mechanics
simulator. It was a build simulator. But I think what's different about Warzone and Fortnite specifically, I think Fortnite deserves a lot of respect, because it put battle royale mainstream. It wasn't the first one to bring battle royale to the scene, but that's what made everyone want to play battle royale
for sure.
But Fortnite, it took them a couple seasons before they got that attention. So they weren't at season 1 everyone's playing. They were at season, I want to say 3 is when everyone was like, oh, this
Which one?
Fortnite. You gotta play. Yeah.
I think that was
season
like
2 or 3.
Season 5.
It might be further. Warzone out the gate was the hottest game.
Yeah.
Like it came out and it was the best battle royale on the market, which is funny because I think Fortnite got better over time. Warzone didn't. Warzone almost started off too good, and we can talk about why that happened.
It kind of leads us into our next point, anyway.
Yeah, and so I think if we look at the state of Warzone now, they screwed up so much along the way that it's hard to appreciate what it is now. I think it's at a good place in a lot of ways. I think it's also Cold War integration borderline ruined Warzone. And one is the mechanics of how Cold War operates versus how the mechanics of Modern Warfare operate are so wildly different mechanics that when they put in the guns, they didn't test the guns. And they didn't
It didn't seem like they did.
They didn't seem, I mean, they probably did, but they probably had some big corporate shill at Activision being like, you need to get this out in the next 48 hours or you're fired.
You're fired, yeah. We could find somebody else to replace you.
Yeah, but one of the things that bothers me is one of the things I really liked about Modern Warfare is gun recoil. The Grau was an issue and the Kilo was an issue, don't get me wrong. But guns didn't have the same recoil patterns. If you look at Cold War's guns right now, all the guns have completely vertical recoil.
Yeah.
So all the guns are super easy to control.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wish they would have come out slower with the Warzone guns, the Cold War guns, to be like, hey, let's meticulously add these and make sure the mechanics operate similar to Modern Warfare.
Yeah.
Actually, when they initially released the Cold War guns, I thought that's how they should have stayed. They never solved the cheater problem, and we're not going to beat that horse because everyone knows about it. But the cheater problem hurt them a lot. And we look at Warzone right now, me and my buddies have been playing. The only people who are on right now are people who still love to grind Warzone.
I don't really understand how.
Because they want to be streamers. Everyone's a Twitch TV at this point.
Yeah, but that's a different point.
As we sit here making our YouTube videos, judging those. But everyone's a sweat lord.
Yeah.
And so when you have everyone a sweat lord, you have guns that are super easy to control recoil wise, plus a really easy skill to master. It started to ruin the game because the TTK started feeling like what a traditional Call of Duty multiplayer TTK was.
With armor plates. But
the armor plates didn't seem to matter.
Yeah.
Because
and if you didn't have armor plates, you were screwed.
Yeah. And it's still in that state. The original, because they made guns don't have random recoil, and they don't necessarily need random recoil, but have some horizontal recoil. Make it easier that you just don't have to pull down on your trigger. Aim assist is an issue because they wanted to cater to, people like me who can't play with mouse and keyboard, which I appreciate. Thanks, God. What they did really well, and I think they're noticing it, is Iron Trials.
That was good.
Iron Trials fixed a lot of their issues. Because my biggest thing right now is when you make a game where guns are super easy to control, and it's not a hard game to master, the skill-based matchmaking in the game seems way worse than it probably actually is.
Yeah.
And so the reality is probably skill-based matchmaking isn't that bad. The game's so easy to conquer. I have almost a 1.9 KD, 1.86. Someone with a 1.15 KD, appearance-wise, is it going to look that different than me? Even though I'm 0.7 better.
Yeah.
Just because you're not fighting control. You're not trying to you have an the Growl ruined this, but an AR is shooting, beaming people for 300 meters. And it's not only the best can do it. If you have above a 1 point KD, you could do that because it's that easy to master.
Yeah, it's not hard to control.
I don't think Warzone's that the gun balance is in a decent spot when it comes to time to kill. The recoil balance isn't good. The attachment balance isn't good. But I think Iron Trials should be the standard.
Right.
Because it has a higher time to kill, which means there's a higher skill gap. And so I didn't tell you this, but me and Buddy were playing duos.
Mm-hmm.
I had 19 kills going into the last 5 people.
In Iron Trials?
in duos in Iron Trials at 19. I was about to drop a 20 bombing Iron Trials.
It seems like
And
it's easier.
another guy got on the roof and killed me. And I think it's
But I feel like it's because like skill-based matchmaking is like it's either not there or like it's weird. Like I don't know.
So I was curious about that and I looked it up and it's definitely still there.
Is it?
But I think what makes it easier is Call of Duty players are so used to being twitchy. Iron Trials, you can't win on twitchy. You have to win on patience and consistency. So you consistently hit, like literally regular Warzone, you shoot 7 bullets with the growl and someone's down.
Yeah.
In Iron Trials, it's taken 20-21.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're doing all the bunny hopping and like you're just like getting a shot here and there and you're just out moving people, you can down people pretty easily. But in Iron Trials, if you're bunny hopping everything and you're missing shots and I'm just tracking you and I'm not missing my shots and I'm not like, and I'm able to be patient, I could beat you in gunfights. Because that's what I was saying, that 19 kill game was a 1.20 KD lobby, which is like considered a pretty good lobby. I think Iron Trials literally, like if the Pacific came out and they said we're raising time to kill by 100, 150, we're getting rid of dead silence, we're getting rid of stopping power, we're
like the perks,
like have the anti-cheat that's going in Ricochet, which is actually a pretty cool name.
It's pretty good.
Combined with new perks and like better attachments, because it's stupid to be like, oh look, this monolithic suppressor improves my bullet velocity and my damage range, and its negative is it adds 4 milliseconds of aim down sight speed. Who the hell thought of that? But Gunsmith was such a good idea and I loved it, but they didn't balance it at all. Yeah. They're like, here's a tactical suppressor, here's a lightweight suppressor, here's a monolithic suppressor. The monolithic suppressor could do everything well except your aim down sight is a little bit slower. Gunsmith was good in regular Modern Warfare. In Warzone, it was a complete disaster.
Oh,
and
horrible.
They screwed the pooch on that one.
I don't know. I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. People have probably said it. It's probably already been said, but I feel like streamers and content creators are kind of part of the problem as far as like why metas are created and why metas are created so quickly. But I also can't blame them. Right, I can't blame them for wanting to capitalize on a system and the way that things are done currently, in order to get views, get money, get paid, whatever. But it's annoying because it definitely feels like it's part of the problem of why games, especially like FPS games, in like call it COD, because it's kind of like a puzzle to put together the gun in the right way. The way that's going to be the most efficient and the most effective. But it's to me, I feel like they're partly to blame, and they can say, you know, it was going to be done or whatever anyway, but like everyone just like didn't do it, it would be that big of a problem. But it's inevitable, so whatever. This is another problem I have. You know, the devs have proven time and time again also that they don't care about feedback, and that it's taken an entirely new Call of Duty. So Warzone's been out, what, over a year? It'll be out a year in March.
No, 2 years in March.
2 years in March, sorry. 2 years in March. Modern Warfare was out, what, since that? So Warzone came out in March, or May, whatever, March. And then
March. Modern Warfare came out in
November or October. So it's going to take them 2 years to come with an anti-cheat. Like, what? It takes, like, games release with that maybe, I don't know, a month or two after the game releases, and it's taken them 2 years to come up with an anti-cheat. And it's like, all right, buy our game and we'll come out with an anti-cheat. We lack the money. Like, everybody knows what they're doing. It's a money grab, and like we don't even know if it's going to be any good. And so it just seems like it's going to fail. I don't know. Maybe I'm just too pessimistic about it, but I feel like it's going to fail, and it's not going to do the job that it was supposed to do, which is, you know, block cheaters. I feel like people are just going to find their ways around it, and they're not going to like try and do their best to like really weed out hackers. But that's just my opinion.
I think recently the devs have done a lot better listening to their audience.
But is it too late?
I think it's too late for right now. And we'll talk about this here in a second, because I think this will take us into our next subject. So the next Warzone map and the new big changes, and they haven't really come out and talked about a lot of it, which I don't love that, but I think it's okay for Warzone because they already have the audience. But with the new map and everything, there's their opportunity to come in and bring people back in.
Yeah.
But I think there's going to be they're doing it in November, or I think they're doing December 7th, very strategically, because they know, one, that's when Halo Infinite comes out December 8th.
Yeah.
And two, Battlefield comes out next week, really early access. And so they know there's a lot of competition. So if they just sit there and wait and allow those games to kind of catch up steam, they might not get their audience back. It was too late, but the devs got better about often tuning their guns, which often didn't fix the fundamental issues, which is make guns more difficult to use. At least they were finally listening, because remember the AUG FFAR
Oh
meta?
God, I think I quit Warzone.
Yeah, no, that broke my back.
Especially whenever I quit.
It took DMR. It took them 2 months.
But okay,
AUG took them 2 months. They hasn't been that since. So they're doing better. But
speaking about like the casualness of it, like that type of meta, like, oh my God, pisses me off, because this game is already so easy. And then like you have people come out with the best way to play this game, and it's like, why the best loadout for this gun? And it's like, it's so obnoxious, because this game is it already has such a slow like dead brain like skill cap, to where you really don't have to think that hard to put together your gun. But one person but like one person or like a handful of people start coming out with these videos, and it's like just clickbait monsters of like creating loadout videos on YouTube and TikTok and all these other platforms, where like it makes an already easy game harder to play if you're trying to like not only enjoy it, if you want to play an off meta gun, but also like the game is already such a low skill cap. Why are we making this game so hard to just play? Right?
And I don't want to give streamers and content creators too much crap. I think they're part of the problem for sure.
I'm not giving them that much crap, but I do feel like they're a part of it.
They're part of the problem. But the ultimate problem is those videos don't matter if your game is balanced.
It's true. They're capitalizing on the system.
Yeah, they're capitalizing, which, maybe
kudos to them.
We could do the same thing. I don't like that.
Kudos to them.
If we could do that for a career, I wouldn't mind that at all.
That's true.
But they capitalized, and it became annoying. But the Bruin, I remember Sebastian, he was like, Bruin kind of chops, and we're like, oh, let's use that, and we're like, oh, this does chop, and then Nick Merckx is like,
he's like, dude, what's going on today, man? Listen,
425 kills in one match.
Yeah.
YouTube. And then everyone was using the Bruin. It's just like, God, like, guys. But I think probably going into our last point, because it's been going on for a while now.
This is gonna be a long video to edit.
Disrespect came out and said Halo's not gonna live past 3 weeks if they don't have a battle royale.
Yeah.
And Ackman was like, no, that's not the case, because people have been waiting 6 years for a good Halo game. And I agree. I think Halo's going to be I think Halo's going to hit a niche audience, which is people above the age of 25. And so I know all my buddies, we're probably going to be playing Halo consistently weekly for over a year, because we were even doing that with the Master Chief Collection.
Yeah.
And so I'd already know 10, 12 guys who are really going to be playing Infinite a lot if it's good. I don't know about you, but I feel like arena style multiplayer games I have fatigue on.
What do you mean arena style?
The Call of Duty 6v6.
Oh yeah.
Even the Halo,
the classic multiplayer experience.
Yeah, classic multiplayer, arcade arena style. Because that's what, like, really Call of Duty hasn't made any significant innovations. Like,
that's why Warzone was good.
Yeah, and that's because it was their huge innovation.
Yeah.
But it's like, part of the reason why Modern Warfare 19 wasn't super addicting to me is because I already played that game. I played it 12 years ago. I played it 13 years ago. Yeah. And I'll say this. I think Call of Duty went for that arcadey style, and that's when it lost me personally. I know that's when it got a lot of people, and that's fine. Like, respect for however you want to play the game. But having 21 kill streaks and everyone slide canceling, bunny hopping, no scope or quick scoping everyone, that just wasn't fun for me, because it wasn't about like, hey, I need to think about my next move. It was, how much Mountain Dew can I inject into my blood and be successful. I'm going to be really curious because I know Battlefield beta got a lot of crap. I loved it. But like I said, people have been playing Battlefield longer than me, and they have a certain expectation of how the Battlefield franchise should be. And the 2042 is not their expectation, in the same way that COD to me shouldn't be an arcadey, like super movement game. I think the FPS genre in general, especially multiplayer, Battle Royale was a big innovation, and it was a good innovation.
Yeah.
But Battle Royale is going to succumb to what everyone else is already succumbed to, which is fatigue.
Yeah.
And who's going to be the company that comes up with the next big innovation? I think actually Ubisoft has had a lot of really good ideas on what to do. They just suck, and so it never works out.
Who's Ubisoft? Like, what do they make?
So like The Division.
Oh, see,
like,
yeah.
Like if Call of Duty put an idea like The Division up there, I think it'd be a ballin' game. Not third person, FPS, but the idea of like almost like a campaign that's open, and Halo's doing this, but a campaign that's like an open world. You kind of acquire gear as you go. Division's a little bit more MMO about that, but I think really with the future of FPS is who's going to make that next big innovation.
I have on here too. I think you mentioned it. I think also it's going to be heavily dependent upon innovation, the future of FPS games. Like, I didn't think that the Battle Royale would be a thing. You know, it's not really that game changing. We're thinking about it. It's not like flying cars in like in a non-flying car world kind of thing. That's not really what it's going to be about. But I think you mentioned it. I can't remember, but like the docs, like Dr. Disrespect's like what he's trying to do, creating a vertical BR with like you play like up and down as well as left to right and front to back. And I think that would be very interesting. I looked at kind of like the vague description of what the game was about, and it sounds interesting because you're playing against time as well as other players. Does that make sense? So it's like if you're, wasn't it like, I think it's, I don't know if you've done a whole lot of research into it, but it's like if you're, there's like lava or fire or something basically like rising, and if you're stuck down low and you're not moving fast enough, like you're automatically out of the game. Like I think that's kind of like, if I'm remembering it right, that's basically what it is, and it's interesting, but I wonder how high up it goes. It definitely sounds like a pretty different type of game, because you have this whole other element. It's essentially like gas. It's not just like this one really long flat game that you're just living in. So I mean that's an option. It could be a total shit show, but like at least I feel like at least he's willing to make a move and like try and do something different. Whether or not this actually comes to fruition, it is an idea for like people to kind of pick up on, and maybe that's his goal too, is to get like larger game studios to pick an idea of his up, because you know he likes to brag all the time that he worked on map design for Call of Duty, but you know I think maps are really boring. Like you said, maps are really boring. Game designs is fairly lazy. There's not a whole lot of my gosh, innovation, and I feel like it's going to be important going forward, because you know it just is. It's important to like kind of learn from what we did in the past and keep going, just like anything in life. I think that as far as Halo goes, like Halo, Battlefield, you know, Vanguard has a BR. I think Battlefield, as of right now, unless there's another game type that they got just like cooked up somehow and that it's good, I think that Halo Battlefield need a BR. I think it just got to happen, or to the mass majority of people who play FPSs are going to declare it a dead game and move on. It's going to have its fan base, and like you and your friends are going to probably play it, and that's fine because you like the game. It's whatever. But like for the mass majority of people, like myself, for example, I probably would get pretty bored just because I feel like I'm not playing for anything, unless there's a ranked mode. Ranked modes also keep people engaged because there is a high stakes nature to it. There needs to be some sort of high stakes, high stakes thing that someone like is playing for it to be worth it for me, because I'm fairly competitive and I want it to be competitive. Flashback to my last point that I made about state of Warzone. Warzone, I think, needs a ranked system. It doesn't make sense for it not to have one. I feel like they could come up with it easy. There's tournaments that go on all the time, and that they have ranked like placement point systems for. They could create a ranked system. Skills-based matchmaking, I think you just get rid of it. I don't think it's needed. I don't think it's necessary for any game. What's the point? Like, I get it, you're trying to keep people in the game longer, but are there actually, I don't know if there's I don't know. I could be just totally ignorant to it, but are there actually studies that show that skill-based matchmaking even does anything? Does it actually keep people in?
I think the studies happened right when the games were becoming big anyways.
Yeah.
And so when they added skill-based matchmaking, like, oh, people play
I think
a lot more.
I think they're biased. They're biased, and they're inaccurate studies. They're not really based on anything but circumstance.
Call of Duty made the studies, so of course they're gonna be biased.
It's like it's biased. It's heavily biased, but also I think it's mostly circumstantial. It's not like if circumstantial evidence is all we really have. Like, that's not good evidence. That's not good evidence. That's not good research. That's just lazy. But also my final point. I don't really know how you solve this. I don't think this is a thing that like a dev can solve. I don't think this is a thing that like one single creator can solve. But like there needs to be a change, and I feel like people should want this, but maybe they just don't know any other way. There needs to be a change to how we like grind to become a sweaty player. Like, there's no place, we talked about this before, there's not on video, but like there's currently no real place in the FPS gaming community, or really like most gaming communities, who just want to enjoy their time playing a game that they love. Like there's no real like champion for that. There's no figurehead. There's no place in community, I feel like, for that to really exist outside of like some friends who casually want to play every now and then. I like games too much to like really just want to play like a couple times here and there. I just can't really do that. Like right now I have to do that because, you know, Ghibli's 3 weeks old. The mindset of like trying to become sweaty as you can to earn the most clout as possible on the internet, to get internet points, to make it to the top of whatever game that you're playing, is like super toxic.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's silly. I feel like it's stupid. Guys, if you can't tell, I just woke up. I forgot to record this the other day, so oh well. If you made it this far in this video, bless you. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate it 100%. If you want to go ahead and give that video a thumbs up because you liked it, that would be much appreciated. Let us know what you think of this video down in the comments. Is this a little bit too long, or does it need to be shorter, a little bit more watchable? Or do you want to see the full thing? If you want to watch this full VOD, I will go ahead and put a link to that in the description of this video, so you can go ahead and check that out yourself. Do you agree with the things that we said about FPS games, and about Warzone in particular? And also, what was your favorite and first, so those are not necessarily always the same, FPS game yourself? But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching once again, and we will see you in the next one.